Just a quick little background on me. I've been doing environmental health and safety for about the last 12 years. I've been at Vermeer now for 7. I started there as basically a plant safety person, went into corporate as kind of a support person, and now I'm senior environmental health and safety manager that reports to the director. I'm sure all of us have those days in our mind that we'll never forget, whether it's like the Kennedy assassination, whether it's 9/11. Mine is July 19th, 2018, right? That is a day that will always be in my memory. And I was talking to a couple people a while back, and the conversation was, do you remember anything prior to July 19th in 2018? No. I couldn't tell you what I was doing, couldn't tell you. I think I was coming to work before July 19th. I hope I was still getting a paycheck, right? But I can't tell you what I was working on. The whole focus from that day forward has been recovery and bringing the business back. And you're going to see more of that as we get into the presentation. To Bruce's comment earlier about hopefully we won't have any storms today, I want to tell you a quick story. I'm teaching an OSHA 10-hour class in Nebraska about probably 9 years ago now. I'm in there getting set up the day before I'm going to teach the class, and all of a sudden the HR manager comes up to me and says, "All right, Auby, you did it this time." What do you mean? What did I do? Well, OSHA just showed up, and you're teaching OSHA 10-hour, so did you invite them to come in for your 10-hour? No, I promise I didn't. I did not invite them in. I did not invite any storms in today either, so hopefully we'll have clear weather, right? That's my goal, all right? So let's talk a bit about the Vermeer tornado. Just a little bit of kind of an overview of the agenda, what we're going to talk about. We'll talk a bit about what is Vermeer. Basically, we are a manufacturer based out of Pella, Iowa. We are global. We have facilities in China. We have facilities in the Middle East, Europe. One of the things that the company said is we want to get more international. And we'll talk a bit more about that when we get a little further into the presentation. One of the things that really helped us throughout the process, and you'll hear more about it, is our flexibility. One of the things that we've always been able to do is adapt quickly. That's partially due to our continuous improvement culture. It's also due partly to just where we're located and some of the challenges that we face. We're going to talk a little bit, actually quite a little bit about emergency preparedness. And then the other side of that coin is the response. Obviously we prepare and then we respond. So we'll spend some time talking about that. The recovery has been huge, and I'll kind of talk about where we're at in that process and what that looks like. Caring for our team was huge. That's one of the things I am most proud of after the tornado, is the job we did communicating with our team members. And I'll talk more about that. And then business continuity and moving forward. We had started the business continuity prior to the tornado. We had done the tabletop exercises, and all of a sudden there was a group of about 12 people at about midnight on the 19th figuring out, what does tomorrow look like? What does 6 months look like? And we'll talk more about what that meant for us. So for those of you that have not seen the Vermeer campus or maybe aren't real familiar with it, this is what it looked like prior to 4 o'clock on July 19th. And the reason I say prior to 4 o'clock, if you look down there, plants 5 and 6, which would be the 3rd and 4th building there, third and fourth building, they were basically wiped out by the tornado. They were gone, and we'll talk more when I get into the details of some of the activities and things we did. We also lost our eco center and our corporate test building as well that day. So I like to tell my story. I know some of you have seen the tornado presentation, and I know Steve does a really nice job, my boss, our director. I know Ron Stanhope, one of our comp guys, is also giving it. But I like to tell my story. I like to tell where I was that day, okay? So I was officing corporate, which is the first building here that kind of sits at that weird angle. I was approximately in the center of that building. Unfortunately, I'm from the Midwest. I hear tornado, and where do I want to go? I want to go outside and watch, right? I'm a Midwestern. I'm sorry. That's just the way I was wired. I grew up that way, and that's one thing I've had trouble changing, okay? In the shelters, though, basically, we had done tons of severe weather or tornado drills, practices. How many of you do tornado drills on a regular basis or severe weather drills? Okay. Highly, highly, highly recommend those if you're not. How many of you do evacuation drills, whether it's fire, whether it's chemical evacuation? How many of you do evacuation drills? Okay. How many of you do fire and evacuation drills together? Awesome. Some of you do. Awesome. We started that process on July 19th, 2018. That was our first that we had done together, right? We'd always done the fire or evacuation drills. We'd always done the severe weather drills. We had never done the two together. We went live on the 19th. It actually went really well for the first time, right? We'll talk a little bit more about some of those challenges. So anyway, I was in the corporate office with our team. Basically, the first communication that we had that we realized we had been hit came across the radios, and it was, "We've been hit." The second communication that we heard was, "There are casualties." Casualties to me can mean two different things. Either one, that means we have bodies laying on the ground, or we have a severe incident that impacts multiple people, right? That's a couple definitions of casualty. Being the safety guy and being a little bit of a pessimist in the moment, I'm thinking we have people down. I'm thinking we have fatalities, right? One of the EMTs, Justin is his name, he looks at me and says, "Auby, you want to roll?" "Absolutely, let's go." We rolled a little too quick. I told my wife this story a few weeks ago, and she wasn't impressed. Justin says, "You ready to roll?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." Well, we came around. So I was actually parked right in front of corporate. I was in the guest parking where I wasn't supposed to be, but it worked out really good that day. I come around the end of corporate with Justin, and we look down the mile and we see the funnel cloud. Okay, we're going to stop here for just a minute and kind of let things pass. That was how quick we rolled, okay? Do I recommend that? No, I don't, but heat of the moment, that was one of the things that happened with us, okay? So we take off down the mile. We actually pull, and so we went down, and you can kind of see right there about the middle where those trees are, there's a little security building that sits in there. The sheriff's department, the police department had heard that there was severe weather coming into the area. They had already staged their people back a safe distance. They rolled in and had the road blocked almost instantly after the tornado hit because there were live power lines down on the road. There was debris in the road. They had it shut down almost immediately. That was a good thing until Justin and I were trying to respond, and we actually ended up going to the back of the mile. And one of the memories that I will never forget is how clear our back road was. So it's kind of hard to see, but there's a road that runs down the back mile. We call it our back road. Pretty creative there. Basically, we had to go back to that, and I will never forget how clear that road was. It was just an open shot to get from one end of the campus to the other. There was one pickup, and it was actually the EHS pickup that had gotten blown into the road. The rest of the way it was clear. We pull into the back of Plant 6, and we walk in and we start doing our assessment. First person that walks up to me says, I've got this hurting, and I can't remember what it even was at this point. So we start our treatment, right? So we start pulling people out of the plant. A lot of you probably heard, long story short, we had 7 minor injuries in the tornado. We had no severe injuries, had no fatalities. That was huge. We were very, very proud of that fact, and we still are, quite frankly. So this is the largest machine made in the state of Iowa, and that is made at Vermeer. Basically, if you think of a rototiller on steroids, that's what this thing is. I don't know if some of you are familiar, we did Safe Start for a while. Really trying to build that safety culture, and we saw that come together on July 19th. We saw the people making some good decisions. We had trained them well, we had done some good things. And there were some opportunities, and we'll talk about that. So like I mentioned earlier, huge takeaway if you're not doing it, make sure you're doing those drills and exercises. Like I said, we had done severe weather drills, we had done fire drills, but we had never done the two together. Our people were very, it was almost like watching robots go into the shelters, coming out of the shelters. The thing that I will tell you that I will never forget, some of the feedback we got was, I came out of the severe weather shelter and things were just pure chaos. If you think about our buildings, things were just thrown all over. We got hit by an EF3 tornado. There was insulation all over, like all your fans were running up in the ceiling. It filled all those fans with insulation. There were fixtures, equipment just laying all over it. And that's one of the things that our people said, wish we'd been a little more prepared for that. They came out of the shelters and were like, wow, it looks like a war zone. And it truly did as we were coming out of the shelters. On the other end, our end did, but on the other end. Some of the lessons we learned, so looking at our facilities, they're fed by 4-inch gas lines. During the tornado, those lines got ruptured. So not only now do we have our well gases that have some ruptured lines, we're also filling the facilities with natural gas, okay? Once again, that was something we talked about. We hadn't done drills around it. So now we're trying to get people out of the facility as fast as we can because now we're filling it with natural gas. Let's get the evacuation. Little side note, so Alliant is our natural gas provider. It just so happened one of their service guys that actually just checked into the hotel in Pella, hopped in his vehicle and drove across town and got our gas shut off within about 15 minutes. Had he not been in Pella, we were probably looking at 30 to 40 minutes to get that gas service shut off. Because one of the things that historically we've never been able to operate our shutoffs. We are looking at automated systems moving forward, or at least giving us the opportunity to shut those valves off. One of the things too that we had a little bit of a challenge was holding people in the shelters. So the event is over and people are wanting to head out. We didn't want them leaving the shelters until we had a good comfort level. How do we get these people out to our evacuation area? I can tell you our evacuation areas were on the north side of our buildings. The north side of our buildings were some of the worst hit areas with the tornado. So where we would normally evacuate to, which was not an option. So that's one of the things we've done in our post-planning is 2 evacuation points, separate from each other. So if one is taken out of the equation, you can always go to the second point for evacuation. One of the things too that we've done, and I'm sure a lot of you have done this, is bring your fire departments in, bring your ambulance crews in, bring your police departments in, and walk those facilities. Show people around, show them what it looks like. Don't let the EF3 tornado be the first time they've ever been in your building, okay? That's one of the things that the fire department and the ambulance crews especially said they appreciated because they knew what to expect, at least at some level, because they knew what our facilities looked like. They knew what our drills looked like. We had worked together on some of the pre-planning activities. And then they were very comfortable responding because they did know our facilities. One of the things that we do have planned is we're going to do some drills with the fire department. Like I said earlier, I've been there 7 years. It's one of the things on my bucket list that I've always wanted to do and we haven't. We actually have that planned for next year. We're going to pull everybody in and do a kind of a countywide drill. In fact, here in about 2 weeks, we're going to do a tabletop with the fire department and ambulance crews. One of the challenges on the day of the tornado, a lot of you may have heard this, we had 300 visitors on site. So I've got 2,600 employees and I've got 300 visitors. And by the way, these 300 visitors represent about 15 different countries. So you've got 15 different languages, plus just the fact that some of these folks don't speak real good English. Some of these people have never seen a tornado before. We had some gentlemen from Mexico, really, really nice guys. Okay? They're standing out in front of our global pavilion, which sustained minor damage compared to a lot of the buildings. They were literally standing out front watching the tornado come toward them. They were in awe. They're going, holy cow, this is cool. Our security manager goes, no, get in the shelter, right? That was one of the challenges we had, and that's been one of the things we've had to address on the backside. How do we account for all these visitors, and how do we educate them that we don't stand outside and watch a tornado? Like I said earlier, I'm from the Midwest. I've done that my whole life. These folks have no idea what they're up against. They have no idea what could potentially happen to them. So that's been one of the things that we've worked on as well, is how do we account for those off-site visitors, those guests, and especially different languages, different cultures, some of those types of things. So this picture was taken about 10, 15 minutes before the tornado happened. That is facing north from our facility. Vermeer uses a process where we're subscribed to 2 different emergency alert systems. The first system said, go ahead and release. The threat is over, you will not have any tornadoes in your area, go ahead and release your people. Our standard work in our process is not only do we have the 2 services, we also do a visual observation. This was our security manager's visual observation. He took this picture, like I said, about 10 minutes before the tornado hit. The thing, too, that never happened was the second alert system never did release our people. So following the standard work, our people should have never been let out of shelters, and they weren't. They were held in shelters. Otherwise, if we would have gone with the first alert system, our people would have been back in manufacturing plants. Almost guarantee we would probably have fatalities. So the fact that we had the redundant alert system plus the visual check by the security manager, that's why our people were still in the shelters when the tornado actually hit. So obviously, I'm sure a lot of you probably saw some of the pictures, some of the things, and I'm going to show you a couple of those here in just a minute. But these are what our shelters look like. This was actually taken during the tornado. The gentleman here on the front side is Dale Andrigan. His wife, before back, Mary Andrigan, who was our CEO, now she's chair of the board. Some of these folks in this room are our guests. So these are the people that were from Mexico, from these different countries. They were in the pavilion. Kind of one of the backstories. So these folks, the ones that were 300 guests, they were actually up the road about 3/4 of a mile from where the tornado actually happened. They're out in an open field. I made a call about 2 o'clock to our security manager, said, hey, we started thinking about bringing these people back because we kept getting these weather alerts. Hey, we're going to have severe weather. So about 2:30-ish, I'm going to say, we started loading these people on transport wagons and started hauling them back to the mile. So that's one of the things that I think we did a good job of, is identifying that opportunity early and then start taking action with that. Let's start bringing these people back, get them in shelter. Like I said, literally, they were standing out in the middle of an open field. Looking back where they were standing, no, it wasn't struck, but it will turn by that tornado and it would have gone across where they were standing. All right, so this is a little video we've got here of the different tornadoes.
No, it's not. That's closer. Oh, this is going to hit town.
Going right over Vermeer. Look at all that crap. Is he hiding? What'd he say? Look at that. Oh my gosh, did you see that explosion? Oh my gosh.
Okay, time to go.
Little added commentary in there from my storm chasers. You probably noticed the explosion in that last video. As far as we could tell, we think that was when the tornado hit the power lines across the road. We think that's what those flashes were. We did not have any transformer damage. One of the things that's nice about Vermeer, all of our electrical grid is underground, so we don't have any overhead power lines. So in this case, that was a blessing. In fact, the city of Pella is actually working on getting almost everything underground. Most of the city already is. Anyway, so that was the storm chaser footage of what happened that day. Here's what it looked like after, and some of these images you might have seen in the news. You know, one of the things that the fire chief and I talked about very early on, probably the day after it happened, we literally had spots where there was cars stacked 3-4 deep. Where literally just took them like matchbox cars and just stacked them on top of each other. Obviously with a lot of damage to them. One of the things he talked with me about, and we both agreed, is we start peeling those cars apart, could we find somebody? And that was certainly a thought that went through our mind because we talked to somebody before this, and we have a very open campus. So one of the concerns is when there's somebody on the campus that we weren't aware of, the potential we're going to find when we start peeling things apart. One of the first things that I asked once we started peeling those cars, we brought pellet fire on site. That way, in case we had any fire, any type of incident, we had them on site ready to roll for us. Luckily enough, we had right at 300 cars. We did not find any people, and we did not have any incidents pulling those cars apart. Okay. We certainly had some leaks, had some things we had to clean up, but no injuries, no incidents, and we didn't find anybody between those cars. So obviously great. You can see just on the amount of tin. So as the tornado went over, it literally just peeled the tin off the top of the building. As you all know, tin is very light. Tin in the wind likes to fly. We literally had probably, I'm going to say, a half-mile distance out of tin when we were still picking up probably 6 weeks after the tornado. Neighbors would be out there. We're in a very rural area, obviously. There's a lot of farmers around us. There was even a few that went out that fall. So this happened in July. They were out there in September, October starting to harvest. And they're actually finding tin chunks out there then. So we're still going out in the fall and picking up chunks of tin. Our flag poles, it was kind of ironic. There was 3 that were left after the tornado. So it left us one for the American flag, the Iowa flag, and the Vermeer flag. All the rest of the poles were snapped off. It was kind of ironic there was 3 left. But we've got a company coming in the next couple of weeks to replace those. So this is what it looked like from an aerial view. This was actually taken by our drone. We had our drone in the air approximately 20-30 minutes after the tornado hit. For a couple different reasons. One, we wanted to assess the overall damage. The other thing that I called and had the drone do was come over to our eco center. So we have a very large flammable and hazardous chemical storage facility that got wiped out by the tornado. The concern is what damage is inside that building. So I had the drone fly over. We did an assessment. Luckily enough, none of the barrels were punctured. I don't know how, quite frankly, but we did not have any leaks in there, did not have any issues in that room. Had a lot of debris in there, but nothing punctured any of the drums. So basically from this picture, you see the front. So this is plant 7. TV's my laser light on the TV. But you see the left-hand side of this building, the building up behind. So this is plant 7, plant 6, plant 5, if you go from the bottom to the top. Plant 5 received by far the most structural damage. Basically, with my construction background, some of my background, I basically assigned myself plant 5, and I lived in there until about November when that building finally got tore down, just because of the concern. And we'll talk a bit more about that when we get into it. Plant 6, it doesn't look that bad, just looking at the picture. In fact, one of the discussions we had with the insurance company is they wanted us to come in and basically look at rebuilding, not necessarily the whole building, but fixing what was wrong, if you will. After we got to looking at it, every single pole in that building had actually moved. It actually tilted. And let's see, I remember here. Plant 6 actually tilted to the south. Plant 5 tilted to the north. One of the things that was interesting, the insurance company, one of the questions they asked us was, well, how do we know those poles were straight before the tornado? Because they were. I don't know. That was one of those things that it was kind of a tough conversation. Is there anybody in here from insurance company? I hope not. I didn't mean to offend anybody in the door, so please forgive me. You'll also appreciate this. This was an intern of one of the insurance companies. They literally walk up to one of the column poles and they shook it. Seems solid. Wow, if it's not, this building's coming down. So yeah, I hope it's solid, right? It was an intern, so we're going to forgive them for their job. Still learning to be an intern. So this kind of gives you just an overall sky view of the damage. One of the things that was just really, really impressive that I will never forget is the amount of first responders and people that showed up to help us after the tornado. It was probably, if I remember right, I think it was 12 fire departments, 5 ambulance crews, and then the food just started showing up. Now, it wasn't necessarily on the 19th because there was, although Hy-Vee did bring in like pallets of water to keep the first responders hydrated. Because you gotta remember, this was in July. Now granted, it wasn't overly hot that day, luckily enough. But one of the things I'll never forget is, so you go through this dark, ominous cloud, there's a tornado blows through, and then it's sunny. And it's like, holy cow, I mean, it looks like nothing ever happened if you look at the weather, but look around and you'll definitely see something did happen. We did set up a triage area, and basically we started we didn't treat people. Basically, I became traffic director. But the EMTs and paramedics started treating people. Like I mentioned earlier, 7 minor injuries. We did have one young man that had a very sprained arm. We had one that had what I'm going to call a light head injury. And that was really our 2 most serious injuries. Cuts, nicks, bruises, trauma. A lot of trauma after the event, right? People have gone through an event that really rocked their world. We'll talk a bit more about that with some of our response. Some of the lessons learned, and I mentioned some of these already, but more exercises with our emergency personnel. They've been through our buildings, they'd seen our buildings, but we had more together doing drills. That's in the future. Comfortable working together. One of the things we did was we did an annual supper, or we did a supper, with the folks that responded, just to say thank you. You guys showed up, you gave us your time, because everyone around us is volunteered, right? We're not in Des Moines, we're not in the metro, so every single department that responded, whether it's actually just the fire departments, and then some of the ambulance crews were volunteer as well. Pella's not, but some of the other communities were. We're also looking at master shutoffs for our buildings, like I talked about earlier, for gas, electrical, one spot and go back to kill the power. And then incident command channel. One of the challenges we have is communicating with the first responders. So Vermeer has our own radios. First responders roll on site with their own radios. We're having trouble communicating with each other, okay? And I know some of you have probably already done this. Highly, highly recommend. Have those conversations and figure out, how's that communication going to work? Communication is one of the most important things through this whole process. Tell the fire chief, he'd been through the buildings with me. Never forget this. He looks at me and says, Auby, what are you doing? Whatever you need me to do, Doug, you're right here. And he basically staged me right next to him as he's working through things. Hey, I need your input on this. Okay, here's what's going on in that area. Okay, thanks. And that was one of the key things. I had that relationship with Doug. But one of the things that was identified was that if I had to have been there, who's his go-to person? He'd had some relationships with some of the other, some conversations, relationships with some of the other folks. Some of them he'd never even met before. So that's one of the things we intentionally did was introduce them to more of our team, get them some face-to-face time so we know each other. So our first introduction isn't after a serious event like this. So this is Marion County Emergency Management. Obviously got some of the sheriff's crew in there, and then our exec team and our leadership team, the communications team. Literally just a little bit after the tornado, we started communicating and getting messages out to our team members. So a couple things around that. So we were sending text messages on cell phones. Radios were intermittently working because we did lose power. We lost one of our repeater towers. So radios worked for a little while. Anybody that's been through a large-scale event like this, how will your cell phone work after a little bit? Because what's everybody doing? Everybody's on their phone texting, calling. So even the cell phones weren't great. So that's one of the things we're talking about is communication, redundancy. How do we make sure we can communicate? And then building that into our system. Accountability. One of the biggest challenges I personally had this whole event, Doug Van Gorkum, our fire chief, and I had a lot of conversation around this. When this event happened, I mentioned we had 300 guests, 2,600 employees on site, but I also said it was a very open campus. It took us a little while to find everybody, okay? And it was very frustrating because as a safety guy, I want to know where is everybody? Is everybody accounted for? And one of the conversations I'll never forget I had with HR, I'm not going to tell you how far it was into the event, but it was too far into it. I said, do we know everybody's accounted for? Well, we think so. No, that's not what I asked. Do we know if everybody's accounted for? We think so. No, that's not the right answer. The right answer is either yes or no, right? Because I have to know where everybody is. That's part of my job. I'm the safety guy. So that's one of the nice things. Billy Fox, our security manager, has done an awesome job of coming up with a system where basically we are identified. And this is kind of our short term. Long term, we're looking at what's like a halo system. So we know where everybody is on the campus at all times. Downside is like Big Brother, right? That's going to be the concern I know some of our team members are going to have. But we're going to have accountability where everybody is. And then like I talked about earlier, having the primary and secondary rally points. So here's a picture. This is Vermeer Road, which is the street that runs in front of the mile. You can see the cars, the tin, everything piled out front. The utility crew is working on trying to get the overhead power lines back up and running. This is the evening of the tornado. At 5:20 p.m., as you can see up there, this was the text message that went to every team member that has signed up for our text alerts. So at 5:20, all of our team members read that message if they're signed up for the alerts. That's one of the things that we really, I think, did a really nice job is trying to communicate to the team members. Let me put it this way. 300 cars sitting out in the parking lot. Where do your team members put their keys when they go to work? A couple different spots, right? Someone put it in their pocket, someone put it in their lockers. For the folks that put it in their lockers, you're out of luck. Like, I'm not letting you back in the building, right? Because it's structurally unsound. So now they're calling friends. We actually had buses transporting people off the campus to get them to a safe location, and then people could come to there and pick them up. That's one of the things, actually, one of the gentlemen I had a conversation about earlier. Do you have all your stuff with you and you're ready to roll? And what's one of the challenges we had was team members were missing their keys, their billfolds, personal items, their lunch boxes. It's amazing what people bring to work, quite honestly, sometimes. And not that's a bad thing, I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's just interesting. And they hadn't even thought about, now what do? I don't have my keys, I don't have my billfold. It was very frustrating for them, and I understand that completely. There's the rest of the timeline. So 5:23, that was the message. 5:52, don't pick up anything, leave everything alone. We have to account for it. So insurance is going to want to come in and see what things look like. So we can't be picking things up, we can't be moving things. We need to make sure that everything's left as it was. At 6:30, there was a message went out to our third shift team saying, don't bother coming to work tonight, right? Because obviously we're not going to be up and around. This is what went out on Facebook. So this is from our communications manager. The only reason I throw this in here, it just shows we were trying to communicate across several different facets, right? So some people had the text alerts, some people had Facebook, some people had email. So there was a lot of different ways this was sent out to people. Very shortly after the tornado, so the gentleman on the left is our president and CEO, Jason Andriga. And then next to him is the sheriff, and then of course the news crews. One of the kind of the cool things that came out of this, a lot of you, or some of you may have seen the Vermeer Strong tag that got put on a lot of things. That was actually by one of our team members, and the reason they did that, they were sick of seeing all the negative stuff. Wow, Vermeer got hit, this is going to happen, and that's going to happen. And this team member goes, no, we're tough, we're strong. And he just on his Facebook page, Vermeer Strong, and the thing just took off like wildfire. And then we actually adapted it, we put it on posters, banners, all that, just to show that, hey, we're going to come back, we're going to be stronger than ever. This was Friday morning, so the tornado hit on Thursday. Friday morning, we all met in our corporate office. Basically, there was, I'm going to say, probably 50 people. It was managers, environmental health and safety, quality. All these key groups are in there to start talking about recovery. Well, at that point, everything's still mass chaos out there, right? The insurance hasn't been in to take their pictures. We're still not done documenting as far as what things look like. But they want to start, how are we going to get production back up and running on Monday or Tuesday or whatever day that looks like, right? So that was the beginning of those conversations. So this is on Monday, July 23rd. So the tornado happened Thursday. You saw us all meeting Friday morning. Nobody came to work on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. Monday, I shouldn't say nobody. There was a group of Saturday and Sunday, but nobody from operations came in until Monday. These are the meetings that happen on the mile on Monday where they start talking about, okay, here's the number of people we need. You folks are coming back to work. You folks, we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do. Okay? The other thing that happened was, and this was on Monday as well, we were doing town hall meetings. Or actually, our president and CEO, Jason, was going around. He did it at Pella Christian High in Pella. He did it in Oskaloosa, all these outreach communities where we had people drive from and talk about, okay, yes, your building was destroyed in the tornado. Here's what we're thinking when we're going to bring you back and what that's going to look like. On Monday, July 23rd, we celebrated the fact that we kicked our first piece of equipment off the line after the tornado. 4 days after the tornado, we're making product again. So we were very proud of that fact, and we wanted to share that with our customers, with our dealers, and with our team members. So, like I talked about, it looked like a war zone. So our recovery, one of the first concerns that got brought up is asbestos. Our buildings aren't from 2005, they're not from 2015, they're from the 1950s, 60s. Asbestos, right? One of the first things we thought about. So we pulled samples, I think it was Friday after the tornado, if I remember right. We sent those to the lab, everything was found negative, no asbestos. That was one of the best things, but we did that determination very, very early. The command center. So this is a picture of the command center with the team members standing there, manning it. Most of those folks are environmental health and safety people. We had a 100% sign-in, sign-out process for what we call the red zone. Red zone is the area that was impacted most by the tornado. To go in and out of that area, you had to sign in, you had to sign out, and you had to be on the approved list to even go in there. If you weren't on the list, you're not signing in or out because you're not going, right? We wanted to be very careful of who we let in that area. There was nails sticking up, there was glass, it was nasty. Anybody's been involved in a natural disaster knows what it looks like, right? So we made sure that people had the puncture-resistant soles, they had on the correct footwear, they had on safety glasses, hard hats, all those things that we needed to protect our team members. We also trained every team member before they went in what to expect and how to protect themselves, and what they were going to see as they went into that site. We also talked about where the restrooms were, because obviously a lot of our buildings did not have restrooms in at that point on that end of the mile. And talked about transportation and how we're getting people around. The thing I am most proud of, so this started on the command center started on Monday, July 23rd. It was the first day we ran the command center full throttle. It went through December, and we didn't have one single injury from the time we started the command center to when we finished the cleanup. That's probably the thing I'm most proud of. Besides the fact we didn't injure anybody in the tornado, one of the things we said early on was, we didn't hurt anybody in the tornado, we're sure as heck not going to hurt them in the cleanup, right? We're going to protect our folks. And we did a very nice job of that. Very happy about that. And to this day, I've had 2 minor injuries with the contractor. One was a eye irritation, and the other one was they got struck by the concrete chute of the concrete truck. Really no injury, but it was an incident. So business continuity. So get the plan together, look for single point of failure, identify those contingencies. What are we going to do if this happens? One of the other cool things that happened, so obviously we're a manufacturer. We probably had 150, 200 companies contact us and say, what can we do to help you manufacture? What can we do to get you guys back up and running? The cool thing was, it wasn't just companies that didn't compete with us. Our competitors were reaching out too. Hey, what can we do to help? That's a pretty cool feeling when your competitors are helping you out. Hopefully it's for the right reasons, but it was pretty cool to see, and a lot of that was utilized. We had tested this exact scenario. Now granted, it was a tabletop exercise, but we had walked through what happens if a tornado hits the Vermeer mile. One of the things I don't like about the mile is literally it's 1 mile long and everything's in a straight shot. So if you were to have an east-west tornado, potentially you could take out that whole campus in one event. But that's one of the things I've never liked about the way it's set up. You'll actually see as we're starting to rebuild, we're actually starting to stagger things a little bit to hopefully keep that from happening again. Hopefully we never have another tornado, but if we do, hopefully it doesn't impact us. And then looking at that pie, people, infrastructure, equipment. How are we going to manage that? How are we going to get the right resources in the right spot? This was Friday, and this was the operations team. So basically, the intent of this conversation is, okay, we want to get back to manufacturing. How do we do that? So this is one of the side meetings that was held. While this was going on, we were starting to set up the command center. It didn't become operational until Monday. They're working on the operations side, we're working on the response side of getting everything set up and ready to rock on Monday. The picture on the left is where I spent from about July 23rd till probably October. That was in plant 5, actually that was in plant 6. Between plant 5 and plant 6, that was where, like I said earlier, most of the significant damage was. But that's what the building looked like after the tornado. That's just a small area, a small picture of it. But as you can imagine, people come out of the tornado shelters, and that's the first thing they saw. They didn't see their work area. They saw piles of stuff, rubble, right? One of the things that Vermeer has is we actually have 4 chaplains now. At the time, we had 3 chaplains. Those chaplains were busy because people were traumatized. They're going, my world is upside down. That used to be my workstation. That used to be my building. I was at Plant 5 for 27 years, and now all of a sudden, I don't have a building. We saw a lot of people that just rocked their world, and there was definitely some PTSD after the event. We were very intentional of getting out to those team members and having those conversations, whether it was us, the chaplains, the operations team. We really were key on listening to make sure there weren't concerns out there. Monday, July 23rd, so it just shows us going back into operation. That's actually the first load of equipment that was shipped 4 days after the tornado. We're back up and running. This is the inside of Plant 6 after we had done the clean out. So Vermeer is a continuous improvement company, like I'm sure a lot of you are. Most of our stuff is on wheels. That was really good after a tornado because we were literally wheeling things out and moving to the next location, putting it on semi-trailers, putting it in other buildings. We're set up to be pretty modular, pretty quick setup. That was to our advantage after the tornado. We could move things very quickly, rekey lines, reset up lines, and rock and roll pretty quickly. From July 24th to August 20th, we did have some folks that were out on unemployment just because we've lost 2 manufacturing buildings, plus part of a 3rd building, plus the Eco Center, plus the corporate test building. So there were some folks that we did not have places for. So they went on unemployment during that time frame. Monday, August 20th is basically when everybody got back to work. So a month after the tornado, we had everybody back in full employment. What we told people was, we said within 6 weeks, we'll have you back to work. We beat that by 2 weeks. And we did that by being very intentional, really working to help those folks get back into their roles. So moving forward, a lot of you probably heard we actually built already 1 new building, Shop 48, our new engineering structure. In fact, I was in there this morning. I'm almost late getting here because I bumped me up a little too long. But it's a really cool facility. It's separate from our existing facility, in fact that it's on the back side of the mile. And it allows us to separate out engineering. So engineering historically has been in the back of our manufacturing buildings. The concern with that is a lot of people see what we're doing behind the curtain, right? Where our ingenuity is happening, our new designs are happening. Now that's separated out into a separate building. We're also building a new Eco Center. I forgot what we're doing here.
What started as a celebration of our 70-year legacy ended in an event that put our legacy to the test.
Oh my gosh, it's going right over here. Look at all that.
We had closely watched the weather all day, and when the alarms went off, I made my way to a shelter, just like we've practiced so many times before. Safely hidden away, we were unaware of what was happening outside. I was next to a team member connected to our radio system, allowing team members to communicate across the plants. As minutes passed, radio messages started to trickle in. Our building has been hit. And that's when reality began to sink in. Vermeer had changed. The biggest blessing, without question, is that only minor physical injuries were sustained and treated that very day. Some of our facilities, however, were destroyed. But here's the thing about the Vermeer team. We are strong. Every day is one step forward. Through everything, we've had 2 goals. First, to recover safely and recover completely, and second, get our team members back to work. And while July 19 tried to test who we are and just how much we can handle, I am proud to stand here today and tell you I am confident. I am confident in the legacy that set this company up for continued success. I am confident in the products we build and the markets we serve. And I am confident that this team is stronger than ever. Our legacy of innovation, hard work, and equipping customers to do more continues. We are Vermeer strong.
So That was Jason Andrea, our president, CEO, getting up talking. That message was sent out to our team members, but also our customers, our dealers, to let them know, hey, we're coming back and we're ready to do this. Like I started to mention, so we've built a new engineering building. We're working on a new eco center, which will be done here hopefully by January. Our waste management team went through last winter in basically a modular trailer. Spent a lot of time working outdoors. As some of you know, last winter here in Iowa was pretty chilly. The forecast for this year doesn't look great, unfortunately, when it comes to snow and cold. So a little bit of concern there going into winter, but hopefully that facility will be done in January. We're building a new plant 7, which actually is going to replace 5 and 6. We're going to have 2 plant 7s. Still some questions in my mind about that, but that's all right, we'll get there. It's going to be a very large, beautiful facility. That's going to be the key thing. The state fire marshal's helping us with some of the design issues, some of the opportunities. We handle a lot of flammable liquids. We handle some other hazardous chemicals, making sure that we manage through that and handle that properly. With that's really what I had. Does anybody have any questions or anything you want to ask? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we were very lucky in some regards. There's a lot of stories. I told about the gentlemen that were from Mexico that were standing outside literally minutes before the tornado struck, in awe of this thing coming at them. We also had some team members who were doing the exact same thing. Our 7 minor injuries actually came from one location. Our team members were told by somebody, I won't say who, wasn't me, to go into a tunnel for shelter, right? A tunnel is the absolute worst place you ever want to go in a severe weather event because you get the vortex of the wind, pulling, throwing, literally it tossed them around that tunnel, and we're lucky that it was just 7 minor injuries, okay? They were giving some bad advice, let me just put it that way. If they had not been in that location, we probably would not have had 1 injury other than maybe a scratch on somebody. Like I said though, the injuries aren't necessarily always physical, sometimes it's emotional, and that's one thing we did see. Yeah, we had 7 physical injuries, but emotionally, people were drained after the event. I mean, it took them a few days to come back, and I knew we got some people that the severe weather shelter, severe weather alarm goes off, they're jumping, they're nervous, and I don't blame them. They went through an EF3 tornado. Yeah, they survived, they weren't injured, but it's still a little scary for them. So that's something we continue to see. So. Yes?
You said you have 4 chaplains. Are those employees? How does that work? That's unique.
Sure. So the way our chaplain program works is it's actually a third party. Because of some of the HIPAA things, we kept it separate from a Vermeer employee, but they're basically contracted by us. They're all 3 part-time, they're like 30 hours per week. And basically each chaplain is assigned like 1 or 2 plants, and their job is to go through and do touch points with each plant every week just to have those conversations. Hey, how you doing? How are things going? And especially after the tornado, that was just incredibly valuable that time. So.
We actually use a service out of Texas called Marketplace Chaplains. And similar program that we use them for years and very happy.
Yeah, our chaplains, obviously the tornado was huge, but I mean, we've had people that have been contemplating suicide that have had some really dark thoughts, and the chaplains have brought them back from that. I mean, it's scary what's out there, but it's good to see too. So, any other questions?
Hey guys, let's give Auby a hand.